My mom was planning to make me watch 5 kids over Christmas, so I changed my plans, and what happened next made her gasp and whisper, "This cannot be happening." My name is Simone, and I am 42 years old. For the last decade, I have been the family bank, the crisis manager, and the safety net. But this Christmas was supposed to be different. I had a ticket to Paris booked, a suite at the Ritz, a reservation for one at a restaurant where they serve wine older than my car. I was staring at the confirmation on my laptop screen when my mother Wanda screamed my name through the video call on my phone. "I am not asking you, Simone. I am telling you." Her voice was sharp enough to crack glass. "Dante and Emily need private space to rekindle their marriage. Tasha is exhausted and needs to rest. You are the only one without the burden of a husband or children, so you have to take responsibility." I opened my mouth to speak, to tell her about Paris, about the flight leaving in 2 days, but she steamrolled right over me. "It is 5 children, Simone, not an army. You have that big empty house in Buckhead with all those guest rooms nobody uses. It is time you put them to good use for the family. God blessed you with wealth so you could serve us, not so you could hide away like a hermit." I looked at my computer screen. My finger hovered over the cancel booking button. It was a reflex, a muscle memory built over 20 years of putting them first. My mother did not wait for an answer. She just adjusted her glasses and gave me that look, the look that said she knew I would fold because I always folded. "I will bring them over on the 23rd. Make sure the fridge is stocked. Tasha S.'s kids only drink organic juice." Then the screen went black. She hung up. She did not ask. She announced. I sat there in my home office, surrounded by awards for marketing excellence and accolades from the industry, feeling like a scolded teenager. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but instead I just stared at the cancel button on my screen, the cursor blinking like a taunt. Before I could even process the rage rising in my throat, my phone buzzed again. It was my brother Dante. My thumb hovered over the decline button, but the old guilt kicked in, the training my mother instilled in me since I was 10 years old. Family first. I picked up. "Hey, big sis." He did not say hello. He did not ask how I was. He just launched right in. "What is the Wi-Fi password at your place again?" "Emily wants to do a live stream when we drop the kids off. She wants to show her followers the mansion." I felt a vein throb in my temple. "Dante, why are you asking me about my Wi-Fi password? I have not agreed to watch your children." He laughed, a dismissive sound that grated on my nerves. "Come on, Simone. Mom already said it is a done deal. Do not be difficult. You know Emily has been stressed. She needs this break. Oh, and remind me to tell you, the twins are strictly gluten-free now. Emily read some article about gut health, so do not buy them those regular nuggets you usually get. She will flip if she finds out you fed them wheat." I closed my eyes. I was paying the lease on the Range Rover Dante was driving right now. I paid the deposit on the luxury apartment he and Emily lived in because his credit score was lower than his age. And here he was giving me dietary restrictions for children I did not agree to watch, so his wife could perform for strangers on the internet in my living room. Dante. "I have plans." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I have a trip booked. Cancel it." He said it so easily, like my time meant nothing, like my life was just a placeholder until they needed me. "Look, Simone, you can go to Paris whenever. You have money. Emily and I are going through a rough patch. If we do not get this time alone, she might leave me. Do you want that on your conscience? Do you want to be the reason my family falls apart?" There it was, the weaponization of guilt, the implication that because I was single, my life was less valuable. Because I had succeeded in business but not in marriage, I owed them my labor. "Just buy the gluten-free nuggets, Simone," he said, "and maybe get some of that expensive wine Emily likes, the one you had at Thanksgiving. We will pick up a few bottles when we drop the kids off." "Thanks, sis. You are a lifesaver." The line went dead. He did not say "I love you." He did not say "thank you for paying my car note this month." He just gave me a shopping list and hung up. I put the phone down on my glass desk. The silence in my house was heavy. Usually I loved the quiet. It was the only thing I truly owned, but right now it felt like a cage. They were not just asking for a favor. They were evicting me from my own life. They were demanding I turn my sanctuary into a daycare center and a supply depot for their lifestyle. And the worst part was, they felt entitled to it. I stood up and grabbed my keys. I needed to talk to my mother face to face. I needed to look her in the eye and tell her no. I needed to tell her that I was going to Paris and they would have to figure out their own childcare. I drove to the suburbs, to the house I paid off 5 years ago so my mother could retire without worry. The drive usually calmed me down, but today every mile felt like a tightening noose. I kept rehearsing my speech. No, Mom, not this time. My boundaries are not suggestions. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Tasha's car, my younger sister. She was probably there to drop off her laundry or complain about her ex-husband. I got out of my car and walked up the path. I reached for the doorknob but stopped when I heard voices drifting through the open living room window. It was my mother and Tasha. They were laughing, not just a chuckle, but deep, full-bellied laughter. "I cannot believe she actually bought it," Tasha said. Her voice was high and mocking. "I thought for sure she would push back about the dates." Mom laughed again. "Oh, please. You know Simone. She lives for this. She thinks she is the savior of this family." All I had to do was mention God and duty, and she folded like laundry. I stood frozen on the porch, my hand hovering inches from the door. "But, Mom, what if she finds out?" Tasha asked. "What if she sees the charges?" "She gave me that supplementary card for emergencies, Tasha," Mom said. Her voice sounded so smug it made my stomach turn. "This is an emergency. We all need a vacation. Besides, I put the deposit down yesterday, and she has not said a word. She is too busy looking at spreadsheets to notice." I frowned. Supplementary card. I had given my mother a credit card 2 years ago when her furnace broke in the middle of winter. I told her to keep it for medical emergencies or house repairs. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and opened my banking app. My fingers were trembling so hard I mistyped my password twice. When I finally got in, I scrolled to the pending transactions. There it was, $5,000, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, pending. I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked back at the window. "It is going to be amazing," Tasha was saying. 5 days in the Bahamas, just us, no kids, no screaming. I can finally tan. "And the buffet," Mom added. I saw the menu. "Lobster night is on Tuesday. We are going to eat like queens." "But what about the kids?" Tasha asked. 5 of them is a lot, Mom, even for Simone." Mom scoffed. "Oh, she will be fine. Simone needs this. You know how she is. Her life is just work, work, work. She comes home to that big empty house and does what? Stares at the wall. Letting her watch the grandkids makes her feel useful. It gives her a purpose. Without us, she is just a lonely woman with a fancy job. We are doing her a favor, really. A favor." I leaned against the brick wall of the house because my knees felt like they were going to buckle. They were not just dumping the kids on me so they could rest at home. They were going on a luxury cruise, a cruise paid for with my money, my card, and they were leaving me behind. Not because they forgot me, but because they thought I was merely a utility, a tool to be used. "Wait," Tasha said. "Did you tell Dante and Emily yet?" "Yes," Mom said. Emily was thrilled. She said she was going to tell Simone she has a gluten allergy just to make her buy special groceries. Can you believe that girl? But hey, as long as Simone pays for it, who cares? They all laughed again. I stared at the transaction on my phone screen. $5,000. That was my first-class ticket to Paris. That was my hotel suite. That was my peace of mind. I listened to them plan their outfits. I listened to them discuss how they would tell me they were just staying home for a staycation so I would not get suspicious. "We just tell her we are turning off our phones for a spiritual retreat," Mom said. "She will buy that. She loves thinking we are praying." I felt something crack inside my chest. It was not a break, it was a shift. For 42 years, I had chased their validation. I had bought their houses, paid their debts, and swallowed their insults because I thought that was the price of love. I thought if I gave enough, eventually they would look at me and see me. Not Simone the wallet, not Simone the fixer, but Simone the daughter, Simone the sister. But standing on that porch listening to them spend my money and mock my loneliness, I realized the truth. They did see me. They saw me exactly for what I was to them. I was the help. I was the staff. And you do not take the staff on vacation. You leave them behind to watch the house. I took a deep breath. The winter air was cold in my lungs, but it felt clarifying. I looked at the pending charge one more time. I could walk in there right now. I could kick the door open and scream. I could throw the phone in my Mother S face and demand my money back. But that would be too easy. That would be just another drama they could spin. They would call me hysterical. They would say I was overreacting. They would gaslight me until I apologized for being robbed. No, I backed away from the window slowly. My heels made no sound on the pavement. I walked back to my car and sat in the driver's seat. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. I looked at the house one last time, the warm glow of the lights in the window, the place I had bought, the sanctuary I had provided. I put the car in reverse and pulled out of the driveway. I did not go in. I did not confront them. If they wanted to treat me like a service provider, then I would give them the professional experience. I would let them think everything was going according to plan. I would let them pack their bags. I would let them dream of lobster buffets and Bahamian beaches. I drove back to my house in Buckhead, the big, empty house my mother pitied. I walked into my office and sat down at my computer. The Paris itinerary was still on the screen. I did not click cancel. Instead, I opened a new tab. I searched for the number of my credit card company's fraud department. Then I searched for a private security firm. And then I opened the family group chat where Dante had just posted a picture of his kids with the caption, "Packing for Auntie Simone S house." I typed a single message. "Sounds great. Cannot wait to see everyone." I hit send. Then I picked up the phone to make the call that would sink their entire vacation before it even left the dock. I walked through the front door and composed my face into a mask of calm. Emily was sprawled on my mother's recliner, scrolling through her phone while the television blared in the background. She looked up when I entered and gave me that tight little smile that never reached her eyes. "Oh, hi, Simone. I am so glad you are here. Listen, I meant to ask you something earlier. Mom mentioned that since you are going to be watching all 5 kids by yourself, you probably will not get much sleep anyway. So she said it would be fine if Dante and I took your master suite when we dropped the kids off, just for the first night, before we head out." I stopped dead in my tracks. My purse felt heavy on my shoulder. "Excuse me?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "You want my bedroom? In my house?" Emily shrugged like it was the most natural request in the world. "Well, yeah. My back has been killing me lately, and Dante says you have that massive jacuzzi tub. I really need to soak. Mom said you would not mind sleeping on the sectional downstairs. It is super comfortable, right? Plus, you will be closer to the kitchen if the kids need snacks in the middle of the night." I stared at her. This woman was sitting in my mother's house wearing clothes I probably paid for asking to kick me out of my own bed in my own multi-million-dollar home so she could soak in my tub. It was not just audacity. It was a hierarchy. In Wanda's world, Emily ranked higher than me because Emily was a wife, Emily was a mother, and Emily was white. My mother would bend over backward to make sure her daughter-in-law was comfortable, even if it meant breaking her own daughter's back. I was the owner of the house, but in their eyes, I was just the staff, the innkeeper. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. I looked at Emily, who was waiting for my approval like a spoiled child. "We will see," I said vaguely. I walked into the kitchen, needing to put space between us before I said something that would ruin my plan. But the kitchen was not a sanctuary either. Tasha was there, leaning against the counter, eating an apple. When she saw me, she did not say hello. She just reached into her oversized tote bag and pulled out a piece of paper. "Perfect timing," she said, thrusting the list at my chest. "Since you are going to be keeping the kids, I figured you could handle a few things for Christmas morning. It is easier if you just buy it since they are already at your house." I took the list. I expected to see things like extra diapers or maybe a specific brand of cereal. Instead, I saw handwriting that spelled out pure entitlement. iPad Pro, 2 pairs of Air Jordan Retros size 6 and 8, a PlayStation 5 gift card, and at the bottom simply cash for incidentals. I looked up at Tasha. Is this a joke? She rolled her eyes. Do not be stingy, Simone. You are rich. You have that big executive salary and no kids to spend it on. This is nothing to you. Mom says you are going to leave everything to our kids one day anyway, so why make them wait until you are dead to enjoy it? Consider it compensation. Compensation for what? I asked. My voice was dangerously quiet. For not having kids, she said with a shrug, taking another bite of her apple. You do not have to pay for dance lessons or football camp. You do not have the stress we have. It is only fair you share the wealth. You owe us that much for being the one who got out. The black tax. That is what it was. The unwritten rule that says, if one of us makes it out of the struggle, we have to carry everyone else on our backs forever. They did not see my hard work. They did not see the late nights or the sacrifices I made to build my career. They just saw a resource, a public utility. I was an ATM machine that breathed. I looked down at the list again, and my eyes caught the notification lighting up on my mother's iPad, which was sitting on the counter next to the toaster. It was an email confirmation. Royal Caribbean, payment received, $5,000. The last 4 digits on the receipt matched the card in my wallet. My blood ran cold. Tasha was demanding iPads to my face while my mother was stealing vacations behind my back. They were picking my bones clean and complaining that there was not enough meat. I folded Tasha's list and put it in my pocket. You are right, I said. It is time I gave everyone exactly what they deserve. Tasha smiled smugly, thinking she had won. Thanks, sis. You are the best. Dinner that night was a surreal performance. We sat around the table eating pot roast I had paid for, served on plates I had bought. My mother sat at the head of the table, beaming. She looked around at her family, her son, her daughter-in-law, her grandchildren, and finally her eyes landed on me. Let us pray, she said, reaching out her hands. We all bowed our heads. I kept my eyes open, staring at the tablecloth. Lord... Wanda began, her voice thick with performative piety. We thank you for this food. We thank you for this family. Lord, we especially thank you for the season of rest you are providing for Dante and Emily and Tasha. We thank you for the journey they are about to take. And Lord, we thank you for Simone. Thank you for giving her a servant's heart. Thank you for blessing her with the means to serve her family and for removing the spirit of selfishness from her. Bless her hands as she tends to the children so her family can be restored. Amen. Amen. The table chorused. A servant's heart. That was her code for doormat. She was thanking God for my submission. She was thanking God that I was foolish enough to pay for my own exclusion. She completely ignored the fact that I was the one funding the feast. She ignored that I was a CEO, a leader, a woman of power in the real world. In this house, I was just the help who paid the bills. I looked up and caught Dante winking at Emily. I saw Tasha smirking at her phone, probably texting a friend about the free iPad she just secured. I saw my mother cutting her meat, satisfied that her world was perfectly in order. I did not scream. I did not flip the table. The anger that had been burning inside me for hours suddenly cooled into something solid and sharp like ice. I remembered the feeling I had when I sold my first company. The absolute clarity of knowing I held all the cards. They thought they were playing me, but they had no idea the game had changed. I picked up my fork and took a bite of the roast. It tasted like ash, but I swallowed it anyway. I smiled at my mother, a slow, cold smile that did not reach my eyes. You are welcome, Mom, I said softly. I am so happy to serve. She beamed back, oblivious to the edge in my voice. I knew you would understand, baby. You always do. I took a sip of my water. Oh, I understood. I understood perfectly. And in 48 hours, they would understand too. After dinner, the air in the room was thick with expectation. They were all waiting for me to pull out my checkbook or maybe offer to drive them to the airport. Instead, I cleared my throat and stood up. The room went silent. I looked at my mother, who was already picking her teeth with a toothpick, and I looked at Dante, who was halfway through a glass of my best scotch. "Okay, Mom," I said. My voice was steady. "You are right. Family is the most important thing." Wanda's eyes lit up. She clapped her hands together like a child. "I knew it. I knew you would see reason, Simone." I continued, "I will do it. I will watch the kids. You all go on the cruise. Go enjoy the Bahamas. I will take the children to my house, and I will handle everything here. You do not need to worry about a single thing." The relief in the room was palpable. It was like a physical wave. Emily actually squealed and hugged Dante. Tasha let out a long, dramatic sigh and slumped back in her chair. "Oh, thank you, Jesus," Tasha said. "I really needed this break, Simone. You have no idea how hard it is being a mother." I forced a smile. "I am sure it is, Tasha. And listen, since I am going to be coordinating everything, I need you to forward me all the booking details, the flight numbers, the cruise itinerary, the confirmation codes, just so I can track your arrivals and departures. I do not want to be late picking up the kids or dropping you off." Wanda waved her hand dismissively. "Of course, baby. I will forward you the emails right now. See, I told you all. Simone is the organized one. She is the glue that holds this family together." She pulled out her phone, and a moment later my pocket buzzed. I felt the vibration against my hip. It was the email, the confirmation number for the Royal Caribbean cruise, the flight details for Delta Airlines, everything I needed. "You are a good daughter, Simone," my mother said, standing up to kiss my cheek. Her lips felt cold. "God is going to bless you for this sacrifice." I hugged her back, but I did not squeeze. I was already gone. Mentally, I was already miles away. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. "I will see you all on the 23rd, I said. "Get some rest. You have a big trip ahead of you." As I walked to my car, I could hear them laughing inside. They were probably toasting to their victory, toasting to the fact that they had once again maneuvered the Bank of Simone into funding their lifestyle, while I stayed home to wipe noses and cook meals. I got into my car and locked the doors. The silence was instant. I did not turn on the radio. I needed to focus. I drove straight back to Buckhead. The city lights blurred past me, but I did not see them. I was seeing red. When I got home, I went straight to my office. I sat down in my leather chair and turned on my desktop. The screen glowed white in the dark room. I placed my phone on the desk and dialed the number on the back of my Platinum credit card. "Welcome to American Express Platinum Services," the automated voice said. "Please enter your card number." I typed it in. A moment later, a human voice came on the line. "Good evening, Ms. Williams. How can I assist you today?" "Hi," I said. My voice was crisp and professional, the voice of a CEO who fires people before lunch. "I am calling to report a lost card." "Oh, I am so sorry to hear that," the agent said. "When did you last have the card in your possession?" I checked the time. "About 2 hours ago," I said. "I believe it was compromised. There are some pending charges that I did not authorize. Let me pull that up for you." The agent typed in the background. "I see a charge pending for $5,000 to Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. Did you authorize this charge, Ms. Williams?" "No," I said. "I did not. I see. And a charge for Delta Airlines for $2,400. Did you authorize this?" "No," I said. "Okay, Ms. Williams. We are locking the card immediately. Those transactions are currently in a pending status. Since you have reported the card as lost and the charges as unauthorized, we will decline the final settlement when the merchant attempts to process them. The transactions will not go through." "Thank you," I said. "Please issue a new card and send it to my office address, not my home." I hung up. I sat there for a moment listening to the hum of the computer fan. It was done. The money was gone. But here was the beauty of it. The cruise line and the airline had already issued the confirmation numbers because the initial pre-authorization had worked. But when they tried to finalize the charge, usually 24 to 48 hours before the trip, or at the moment of check in the card, would come back as invalid, stolen, canceled. They would be standing at the check-in counter with their luggage and their sun hats, and the agent would look at them and say, "I am sorry, but this payment method has been declined." I could have canceled the tickets myself, but that would have triggered an email to my mother. This way. This way it was a surprise. But I was not done. I picked up the phone again. This time I dialed a number I had saved under legal. It rang twice. Hello, Simone. It is late. Is everything okay? It was David, my attorney. He was used to my late-night calls, but usually they were about business mergers, not family destruction. Hi, David. I need you to draft some paperwork for me first thing in the morning. Go ahead, he said. I could hear him reaching for a pen. I need to revoke the permission of use for the Range Rover currently in the possession of Dante Williams. I want to report it as an unauthorized use of company property if it is not returned within 48 hours. And I need to start the eviction process for the tenant at the Maple Street property. Tasha Williams. David paused. Simone? Are you sure? These are your siblings. I looked at the family photo on my desk. The one taken 10 years ago where I was standing in the back while Dante and Tasha sat in the front holding the trophies I had paid for. I am sure, David, I said. They have breached the terms of our verbal agreement. The agreement was mutual respect. Since that currency is no longer being honored, neither is my money. I want the car repo team on standby for Christmas Eve, and serve Tasha the notice the day after Christmas. Understood, David said. His tone shifted to pure business. I will have the courier run the papers over for you to sign tomorrow. I hung up. My heart was beating slow and strong. For years I had been afraid of this moment, afraid that if I cut them off I would be alone. But sitting there in the quiet power of my office, I realized I was not alone. I was free. I spent the next day turning my home into a fortress. If they thought they were going to storm back here when their vacation fell apart, they were wrong. I went to the guest rooms. The rooms Wanda had insisted were perfect for the grandchildren. I stripped the beds. I took the pillows and the comforters and locked them in the linen closet. I cleared the bathroom counters. Then I went to my master suite. The room Emily wanted so badly. I took my jewelry box, my passport, and my birth certificate and put them in the floor safe. I packed a small bag with my essentials, my laptop, my charger, a few changes of clothes for Paris. I called a private security firm, a company that usually handled VIPs and celebrities. I need a guard for my residence, I told the dispatcher. From the 23rd of December until the 2nd of January, 24-hour surveillance. No one enters the property without my written authorization. No one. Not even family, especially not family. We can do that, Ms. Williams, the dispatcher said. We will send a team over to do a perimeter check tomorrow. Perfect. As I was locking the door to my wine cellar, my phone pinged with a text message. It was Emily. Hey, Simone, just a heads up. I really like that Cabernet you had last time, the one with the gold label. Can you make sure to have a few bottles chilling in the master bedroom for when we get back? Also, Dante says make sure the tank in the Rover is full. We do not want to stop for gas on the way to the airport. Thanks. No, please. No, thank you. Just demands. I stared at the screen. She wanted wine in the room she was stealing. She wanted gas in the car I was repossessing. I typed back, got it. There will be a surprise waiting for you. I hit send. A surprise indeed. The surprise was that the wine cellar was locked, the bedroom was locked, the house would be locked, and the Rover would be on the back of a tow truck. I walked to the window and looked out at my driveway. It was empty now, but soon it would be a battleground. I took a deep breath. Let them come. Let them bring their entitlement and their guilt trips. I was not just changing the locks. I was changing the locks on my life, and for the first time in 42 years, the only person holding the key was me. I was not there to see it happen at the airport on December 23rd, but I have the security logs and the voicemails, and frankly, I have enough imagination to picture it perfectly. The way I heard it, they walked into Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport like they owned the place. My mother, Wanda, was wearing a wide-brimmed sun hat in the middle of winter. Dante and Emily were matching in designer tracksuits that I'm sure they bought on credit. Tasha was already posting selfies captioned "Vacation Mode Activated." They had left all 5 children at my mother's house in the suburbs with a note on the fridge for me, assuming I would be there within the hour to begin my sentence as their unpaid nanny. They marched up to the priority check-in counter because, of course, they felt entitled to skip the line. My mother slammed her passport down on the counter with a flourish. We are checking in for the flight to Fort Lauderdale connecting to the Royal Caribbean cruise. She announced loud enough for the people in economy to hear. And make sure our bags are tagged priority. The agent typed on her keyboard. She smiled that polite, tight-lipped smile that airline employees use when they are dealing with difficult people. One moment, ma'am. Let me just verify the payment method on file to finalize the booking. My mother waved her hand airily. It is the Amex Platinum ending in 4055. It is all taken care of. The agent typed again. Then she frowned. She typed a third time harder. The smile vanished from her face. I am sorry, ma'am. The agent said, her voice dropping an octave. This card has been declined. My mother laughed. A nervous, high-pitched sound. That is impossible. My daughter is a CEO. That card has no limit. Run it again. I cannot run it again, ma'am. The agent said firmly. The system has flagged this transaction as fraudulent. The card has been reported lost or stolen by the primary cardholder. All pending transactions associated with this account have been voided. The silence that followed must have been deafening. Fraudulent. My mother whispered. Behind her, the line was growing. People were starting to stare. Emily stepped forward and her face twisting into a mask of rage. What do you mean stolen? We are the family. She gave us that card. The agent did not budge. I am sorry, but unless you can provide another form of payment for $5,000 for the cruise and another $2,000 for these flights immediately, I cannot check you in. The flight is oversold, and I have standby passengers waiting. Dante patted his pockets. He looked at Emily. I do not have that kind of limit on my card, babe. You know that. Emily turned on my mother. You said she paid for it. You said the rich bitch was taking care of everything. My mother was frantically dialing my number. I could see the call coming in on my phone as I sat in the lounge at the international terminal a mile away, but I did not answer. I let it ring. Pick up, Simone. Pick up, my mother hissed into the phone. She did not pick up. Emily let out a scream that turned heads 3 gates away. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. I have 5,000 followers waiting for a boat tour. I bought new bikinis. You cannot do this to me. We cannot pay for this. Tasha said, her voice trembling. Mom, we do not have the money. The agent looked at them with zero sympathy. If you cannot pay, please step aside. You are blocking the line. They were forced to drag their oversized luggage out of the line while the people behind them glared, humiliated, broke, and stranded at the airport with no vacation and no place to go but backward. By the morning of December 24th, the shock had turned into pure, unadulterated rage. They did not go back to my mother's house to get the kids. No, they left the children alone with the neighbor watching them because they had a more important mission. They were coming for me. They assumed I was at my house in Buckhead. They assumed I was inside preparing the nursery and baking cookies like a good little servant. They drove to my house ready to tear the doors off the hinges. They wanted to scream at me. They wanted to force me to fix it. They probably thought if they bullied me enough, I would pull out another credit card and charter a private jet just to stop the noise. But when they pulled up to my estate, the massive iron gates were closed. Dante jumped out of the Rover. He punched the code into the keypad. 1234. Nothing happened. The light on the keypad blinked red. He punched it again harder. Open the damn gate, Simone. He screamed. The gate remained shut. Suddenly the pedestrian door opened, but it was not me who walked out. It was a man. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall, wearing a tactical vest and a badge that said Private Security. He stood in the middle of the driveway, his arms crossed over his chest. A human wall. Can I help you? The guard asked. His voice was deep and devoid of any warmth. Who are you? Wanda demanded, getting out of the car. Where is my daughter? Where is Simone? Tell her to get her behind out here right now. She has a lot of explaining to do. Ms. Williams is not here, the guard said calmly. She left the country yesterday morning. She is currently in Paris. Paris! Emily shrieked from the back seat. Paris! We are supposed to be in the Bahamas. The guard reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a thick manila envelope. "Ms. Williams instructed me to give you this," he said, handing the envelope to my mother through the gate bars. "She said it contains all the necessary documentation regarding your situation." My mother tore the envelope open. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the papers. The first thing she pulled out was the credit card cancellation notice from American Express confirming that the card had been reported stolen and all users were removed. The second document was a legal notice from the Department of Motor Vehicles and a repossession order. Dante. My mother whispered, reading the paper, This says the rover has been reported as unauthorized use of corporate property. It says the police are on their way to recover the vehicle." "What?" Dante yelled. He looked at the SUV he was standing next to. "This is my car. She gave it to me." Technically, the guard interjected, "Ms. Williams' company owns the vehicle, and since you are not an employee and you are no longer in her good graces, she has revoked your driving privileges. The tow truck is about 5 minutes out. I would suggest you remove your personal items immediately." Tasha grabbed the envelope and pulled out the last legal document. It was an eviction notice. 30 days to vacate the premises on Maple Street. "She is kicking me out." Tasha gasped. "She is kicking me and my kids out on Christmas." And finally there was a handwritten note. My mother unfolded it. I had written it on my personal stationery, the expensive kind with the heavy cardstock. I know what it said by heart. "Dear family, you were right. I do not have children of my own to worry about. For years you have told me that my money and my time should belong to you because I have no legacy. But I realized something yesterday listening to you plan a vacation with my money while assigning me unpaid labor. I do have a child to look after. The child is me. The little girl inside me who wanted a mother, not a manager. The teenager who wanted support, not a bill. So I have decided to use my resources to take care of her. I am in Paris. The food is paid for. The hotel is paid for. And my peace is paid for. As for the 5 children you left behind, they are your legacy, and now they are your responsibility. Merry Christmas." My mother crumpled the note in her fist. She looked at the guard, her eyes wide with disbelief. "She cannot do this. This is family. You tell her to call me." The guard did not blink. "Ms. Williams has blocked your numbers, ma'am, and I have been instructed to inform you that if you do not leave this property immediately, I am authorized to call the police for trespassing. You have 3 minutes before the tow truck arrives for the Range Rover." Dante looked at Emily. Emily looked at Tasha. The realization washed over them like a bucket of ice water. The money was gone. The car was gone. The house was locked. And the person they had used as a crutch for 20 years had finally walked away and let them fall. "Paris," my mother whispered. "She is in Paris." The sound of a siren wailed in the distance, getting closer. "The tow truck. Get your bags." Dante yelled, panic finally setting in. "Get the bags out of the car before they take it." I imagine it was quite a sight, my family scrambling on the side of the road in the cold, pulling tacky suitcases out of a luxury SUV, while a security guard watched them with his arms crossed. They were left standing on the pavement as their ride was hooked up and towed away, leaving them with nothing but their luggage and the long, cold walk to the nearest bus stop. They wanted a memorable Christmas. I made sure they got one. I was sitting on the balcony of my hotel suite, wrapped in a silk robe, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle against the night sky. In my hand was a glass of vintage Bordeaux that cost more than Dante's monthly rent. My phone buzzed on the bistro table. It was a number I did not recognize, probably a burner phone or a borrowed device since I had blocked every single one of them. I took a sip of wine and slid my finger across the screen to answer. I did not even have to say hello. "Simone." My mother's voice cracked through the speaker, shrill and hysterical. "How could you do this? We are at my house in the suburbs. The power is out because I forgot to pay the bill thinking we would be away. The children are crying, Simone. They are hungry. They have no gifts, no food. Emily is screaming that she is taking the kids to her parents' house and filing for divorce because you humiliated Dante." I swirled the wine in my glass, watching the red liquid coat the sides. I held the phone up so she could see the Parisian skyline behind me. "Hello, Mother," I said, my voice smooth as velvet. "I hope you are well." "You are evil," she sobbed. You are selfish and cruel. You left us with nothing. You stole our Christmas. I chuckled softly. Stole. That is a funny word coming from you. You stole $5,000 from my bank account to book a cruise I was not invited to. You tried to turn me into a servant in my own home. You always told me growing up that actions have consequences. Well, these are the consequences. You planned a vacation with my money, so I decided to take a vacation with my money instead. It seems perfectly fair to me. Suddenly, the phone moved. I saw a blur of motion, and then Dante's face filled the screen. His eyes were wild and red-rimmed. You think you are smart, do you not? He spat. You think you can just run away to France and hide. I am going to your house right now. I am going to break every window. I am going to smash that place to pieces until you pay us back every cent you cost us. I took another sip of wine unbothered. Go ahead, Dante, I said. Please do. My home is equipped with a 4,000 resolution security system that feeds directly to the Atlanta Police Department. They will be there before you even pick up a brick. And speaking of police, you might want to look out the window. What? He paused. The Range Rover, I said. The one you have been driving for free for 2 years. I reported it stolen this morning. Since I hold the title and you are no longer an authorized driver, the police are tracking the GPS as we speak. I imagine the sirens should be audible any second now. Good luck explaining that to the officers. His face went pale. The bluster vanished, replaced by pure terror. Simone, wait. He started. Merry Christmas, Dante. I ended the call. I placed the phone face down on the table. Almost immediately it began to vibrate. 1 buzz, 2 buzzes, 10. A continuous stream of desperate texts and calls. I did not look at them. I did not mute them. I just let them buzz a distant rhythm that had nothing to do with me anymore. I stood up and walked to the railing, breathing in the crisp winter air of Paris. For the first time in my life, I did not feel the weight of 5 other people on my back. I felt light. I raised my glass to the sparkling tower in the distance. To Simone, I whispered. And I drank the whole glass. Family is not a license to exploit your hard work. Simone teaches us that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it is an act of survival. You cannot buy love, and you shouldn't have to buy respect. Protect your peace guard, your resources, and never apologize for prioritizing the child inside you over grown adults. Have you ever had to teach a toxic family member a hard lesson about boundaries? Let me know in the comments below.